Team Pointy Star here with our next installment of this deck in the playability of. This week's deck is Ghostrick. Ghostrick is a special deck that kind of resembles Halloween and such. All of the monsters have a special effect that says cannot be normal summoned or set. No, cannot be normal summoned unless you control a Ghostrick monster, but it can be set. So, using this, you're supposed to build up a field presence by setting monsters, flipping them up, and gaining various effects depending on it. They have 3 different types of monsters. Level 3s, which either search or power up or protect your cards. Level 2s, which involve making your opponent's monsters go face down. And level 1s, which are used to help establish the field presence. Without further ado, we're going to go straight into the monsters of the deck. To start things off, we've got ourselves the Ghostrick Giganchi, or the Ghostrick Kyonshi, or Ghostrick Zombie Lady. What she does is, when she's flipped up, when this card is flipped face up, you can add from your deck to your hand one Ghostrick monster whose level is less than or equal to the number of Ghostrick monsters you control. So, if you have 2 Ghostricks on the field, when she's flipped up, you can go up for a level 2 monster from your deck. If you have 3 on the field, you can go for a level 3. If you have 1 on the field, you can go for a level 1. Herself counts as 1, so if you only have her and she flips up, you can add any of the level 1s. The second card in this deck is the Ghostrick Stein. Ghostrick Stein has a really good effect, and him being pretty much the strongest monster on his own. It is, when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can add 1 Ghostrick spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. So, when he attacks over something or attacks directly by you taking advantage of the field spells, you can search for a different spell or trap card that includes Ghostrick in it. One of the next cards in the deck is the newer edition of Ghostrick Mummy. Ghostrick Mummy is this really good card that they recently added that says when this card is face up on the field, you are allowed an additional normal summon or set of a Ghostrick monster. And the cost is, while he's face up on the field, no XYZ or other kind of monsters can be special summoned unless they are dark. So, he just helps you spam your field with monsters. The next card in this set is another new one, called the Ghostrick Skeleton. He is a very interesting card that people were a little confused about and how it sets up or goes against your opponent, figuring how some of the other cards don't really do this. His effect being, when this card is flipped face up, banish cards from the top of your opponent's deck face down, up to the number of Ghostrick monsters you control. So, if you have 4 monsters and then you flip him up, then you will banish 5 of your opponent's cards. Ghostrick Ghoul. This monster has a really strange effect, going once per turn during your main phase 1. You can target 1 Ghostrick monster you control. Its attack becomes equal to the combined original attack of all Ghostrick monsters currently on the field. That monster is the only one that is allowed to attack. So, it lets your, let's say, Ghostrick Stein get really big really fast, at the sacrifice of making your other monsters not be able to attack. Why would you want to do this? If you were trying to attack over a really big monster, or if you were afraid of Mirror Force, because, as I forgot to mention, every Ghostrick monster in the deck has the effect. Once per turn you can change this card to face down defense position. So you can use Ghoul's effect, make your Stein really big, and flip everything else face down, so you don't have to worry about the Mirror Force. The next card in the deck is the Ghostrick Yeti. Ghostrick Yeti is a newer addition to the set that nobody really knew about until really recently. Its effect is, when this card is flipped face up, you can target 1 Ghostrick monster on the field. This turn, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. He's an interesting card, figuring his defense is 2,000, being one of the biggest numbers to appear on any of the cards, figuring most of them have like 0 to 800 defense. His 2,000 is way different than everybody else's, giving him a higher chance to stay. Why would you use him? If you use one of the traps and you flip him up, you can make one of your more important guys, like your Ghostrick Stein or something else, immune by destruction of effects. Flip him up when you flip up everything else, and the Ghoul will make your Stein really strong, and the Yeti will make it invincible. The next card in the deck is the Ghostrick Witch. The Ghostrick Witch is an amazing card that this card says, once per turn you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls and change it to face-down defense position, while using some of your other optional traps and spells. This monster with its 1200 attack is actually really good, being level 2, you could go into Gotchi or something to try and boost up your other monsters, or you can just continually use Witch's effects, since her effect is unlike the other ones, not saying you can only use the effect of a witch in general, so you can have multiple up and flip multiple down. Next card in the set is Yukiona, my personal favorite Ghostrick monster. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can change the monster that destroyed it to face down defense position, and if you do, it cannot ever change its battle position. So, you can use the Ghostrick Yukiona or Snow Maiden to attack into a really big monster. Since you'll have your field spell out, the damage will be halved, and your opponent's monster will go face down and not be able to change itself. Now, the next two are the other two level 2s that are more recent. The first one is the Ghostrick Cat Girl, which, when a level 4 or higher monster is normal or special summoned, you can, if you control another Ghostrick monster, change that monster to face down defense position. If you have multiple out, and they try to normal summon a monster, she will stop it. The next card in the set is Ghostrick Frost. This monster's effect is when an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, you can change that monster to face down defense position, and if you do, special summon him, helping you get multiple cards out. This monster is a pretty decent card. When your opponent tries to attack you directly, then this stops it. What the level 1s do is they get your field presence out. The next card is the Ghostrick Lantern, one of the older ones. What this card does is, when an opponent's monster declares a direct attack, or negate the attack, and if you do, special summon this card face down. So, what does this do? Is it lets you get more monsters on the field while negating your opponent's attacks. The next card in the set is the Old Spectre. When a Ghostrick monster is destroyed by an opponent's card, battle, or effect, you can send from this card can be special summoned. So, if your opponent destroys it when it's trying to be summoned, or when an opponent destroys it when it's already on the field, you can special summon the Spectre face down. And when you do, you get to draw a card. The last monster in the set is the Ghostrick Mary. Only 100 attack, you probably aren't going to want to summon this card. The 1600 defense is decent, but the point of her is, when you take damage, you can discard this card. Special summon a Ghostrick monster from your deck and face down defense position. You can only use one Mary per turn, but she allows you to set up your plays and get monsters out really quick. That rolls up the monsters, and we'll move on to the spells. As of now, they've only released us 2 spells, both of which are field spells, and if you look at them, the arts are actually very similar. They're trying to mimic each other, with the Stein and the Mummy kind of being the main one, with a bunch of the other ones kind of wrapped around them. The first one is the Ghostrick Mansion. Ghostrick Mansion has this following effect. Monsters cannot attack face-down defense position monsters, but can attack directly if all monsters their opponent controls are in face-down defense position. All effect damage and battle damage inflicted by monsters other than Ghostrick monsters is halved. So, your opponent uses the Cowboy, you take 400 instead of 800. Your opponent attacks directly with 3000 damage, you take 1500 instead. That is one of the main cards of the deck because you want to be able to flip your dudes down and let them be safe, and you want to be able to attack over your opponent's monsters without worrying. The newer one is the Ghostrick Museum. This card says, monsters you control cannot attack, except for Ghostrick monsters. Monsters cannot attack face-down defense position monsters, but can attack directly if all monsters are in face-down defense position. At the end of the damage step, if a monster inflicts battle damage, change that monster to face-down defense position. What does this do is it makes it so you can summon your monsters and activate the museum and force your opponent to do nothing, because if they do, they'll just set you up for your next turn, having flipped their monsters down for you. The 2 spells in this deck are supposed to be able to let you put all your monsters face down and live with it, and then when they try to attack directly, use cards like the Snowman or the Lantern or the Mary to get more monsters out, since you need lots of monsters for this deck to be good. Moving on from the spells, we'll move on to the traps. We have the first trap, Ghostrick Panic or Ghostrick Scare. This following effect goes, target any number of face-down defense position monsters you control. Change them to face-up defense position. Count the number of Ghostrick monsters among them, and if you do, change that many face-up monsters your opponent controls to face-down defense position. The minimum is 1, so you cannot activate it if your opponent has no monsters, but what this does is it allows you to flip up cards like Night Assailant, or flip up cards like Giganchi and get their effects off on either your opponent's turn or on your own turn, while also making your opponent's monsters go down. The next card is the Ghostrick Out or Ghostrick Vanish, depending on where you are in the world. The effect of this card is reveal one Ghostrick monster in your hand. This turn, Ghostrick cards you control and face-down defense position monsters you control cannot be targeted by or destroyed by card effects, allowing you to use effects like activate Vanish and then use Dark Hole, in which your monsters will not be destroyed. Or when your opponent tries to Mirror Force, you can activate Vanish, reveal your monster, and they won't die. The last trap in the deck is called the Ghostrick Roll Switch or Ghostrick Trick Go Round. This card has a strange effect, which actually is 2. Once per turn, during the battle phase, you can activate one of these effects. Target one Ghostrick monster you control, change it to face-down defense position, and then change one face-down defense position your opponent controls, into face-up attack position. Or, you can target a face-down defense position monster you control, change it to face-up attack position, and then, if it was a Ghostrick monster, change one face-up monster your opponent controls to face-down. What this card allows you to do is it allows you to get effects off during you or your opponent's battle phase, and it allows you to do other things. This is a continuous trap card, allowing you to get lots of positive things off. Going on to the 2 extra deck cards for this deck, we have Ghostrick Alucard, the main monster of the deck. This monster has a really interesting effect that kind of works perfectly with the deck. Your opponent cannot target other Ghostrick monsters or face-down defense position monsters for attacks, meaning your opponent has to attack this, allowing you to use your lanterns and your specters and your Marys to stop it from dying. The other half of the effect is target or detach one XYZ material from this card. Then target one set card your opponent controls. Destroy that target. You can only use the effect of Ghostrick Alucard once per turn. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one other Ghostrick card in your graveyard and return that target to your hand, allowing you to recycle either your field spells, your traps, or any of the other monsters you'd like. The second XYZ is a newer one, which was something the deck kind of really needed, the Ghostrick Dolan. What this monster is it says, this card gains 200 attack for each Ghostrick card you control. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach one material from this card, target one monster in the field, have that monster's attack until the end phase. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one Ghostrick card in your graveyard except this card and add that target to your hand. Now it seems strange why you would want to use this guy because he's only got 1,000 attack, but if you have a field full of Ghostrick monsters and he comes out, his attack can go up a lot, and using cards like Ghostrick Ghoul, his attack goes up even more, and his effect to be able to have your opponent's attack makes him so good. He is like really, really, really strong. He works with the Ghostrick Go Round, and he works with the Ghostrick Field spell, making him even stronger than he originally was because they are Ghostrick cards, as the effect specifies. Now, that is all the monsters in the main deck. I figured I'd really quickly go through some cards that you can try. I use several of them in my own build of the deck, and I figured I'd just let you know what they are. The first one is the Tour Guide from the Underworld. Why would you use this monster, some people are asking, because, yeah, it's a level 3 fiend, and I mean, all it does is it pulls out an XYZ. Well, why do you want your XYZs? Because you cannot normal summon Ghostrick monsters unless another one's on the field. So Tour Guide will summon the Tour Guide to bring out Alucard. And if you're using Tour Guide, you might as well use the next card that I would suggest, Night Assailant, because Night Assailant can be searched for by Tour Guide, or you can just use Night Assailant's effect. Select one monster your opponent controls and destroy it. The next card I would suggest is Swords of Concealing Light. What this card does is it flips all your opponent's monsters face down. So, your opponent's monsters are all down, allowing you to attack over them with your weaker monsters. But that's not all it does. It makes it so your opponent cannot even change their positions on their next turn. So they are stuck with the monster face down on their side of the field, and they can't do anything about it. The next card is Book of Eclipse. Change all face-up monsters on the field to face-down defense position. During the end phase, flip up all face-down defense position monsters your opponent controls, and they draw several cards. Why would you ever do this? It allows you to flip back down your Night Assailant and a lot of other cards, allowing you to flip them all back up to gain more effects, flipping up the Night Assailant and then the Giganchi to get a search and a pop, and then you can XYZ into the Alucard. Alucard then would be able to destroy the face-down monster you set, so your opponent does not end up drawing cards. One of the next cards is Recurring Nightmare. Recurring Nightmare. Select 2 dark monsters with 0 defense in your graveyard, return them to your hand. Well, in this deck, they like to do 0 defense for several cards, such as the Stein, the Mummy, the Spectre, and the Lantern, all which have 0 defense. So you can just add these cards back after you use them. The next card is Allure of Darkness. Now, you run a lot of monsters in this deck because you can. There are so many different good monsters in the deck, so why not use Allure? Allure lets you banish one of them to draw 2 more. So it lets you change your hand a little bit when you might need to later in the game. Next card, Book of Moon. It's probably one of the most staple cards that you can put in a Ghostrick deck because just flip your opponent's monster down is just great. There's no cost, and you can use it on either player's turn. So with swords, when they try to summon their monster, you can flip it down and they won't be able to change it. The next card is One Day. Well, some people are confused on why you'd use One Day, because your field spell makes it so you take even less damage. But One Day of Peace allows you to set up for a turn. Lets you set your Gigancy One Day of Peace, you won't take damage no matter what. So that way, even if you don't have your field spell, you're going to last another turn. So you can go off and try and do stuff on your next turn. And the last spell card that I'd suggest for the deck is the Pot of Duality. The Pot of Duality is reveal top cards of your deck, add one of them to your hand, shuffle the rest back into your deck. You can only activate once per turn, and you cannot special summon for this turn. Why would you want to ever give up special summoning? That Alucard is important. While it is important, you don't always need to special summon. Pot of Duality lets you find the cards that you need, so you can normal summon them all. And some of the Ghostrick monsters just work by being normal summoned, such as the Ghoul with Mummy and Stein is like about a 5,000 attack point monster, which will let you search for a spell. So just getting those cards out is really easy to use Pot of Duality effectively. Moving on to the one trap I suggest, there are tons and tons of traps you can use, such as Needle Sealing, which is really good for the deck, but the main one that I'd suggest is Waboku. Simply because you take no battle damage this turn, and your monsters cannot be destroyed by battle. So when they try to attack into your Gigancy, you can Waboku to flip it back up. The other XYZs I'd suggest is the Shiny Magician or Slacker Magician. What this monster does is, once per turn, this card cannot be destroyed by battle. During either player's turn, when a card effect is activated or effects are activated that would target this face-up card, you can detach a material from this card and negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. This makes this monster a little bit of a wall, and it can sit there for a while. But then, they released a new card that makes her even better for the deck, and makes it so you can get dead cards like a dead Dolhin or a dead Alucard off the field, which is the Downerd Magician. What this card says is 2 level 4 spellcaster type monsters, but figuring as you don't run any spellcasters, there has to be a different way to summon it. In which there is. During your main phase 2, you can also XYZ summon this card by using a rank 3 or lower XYZ monster you control as the XYZ material. Then, all cards underneath the Downerd Magician are treated as XYZ materials. This card gains 200 attack for each XYZ material attached to it. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent, and if this card battles, after damage calculation, detach a material from this card. With a base attack of 2100, even when you run out of materials, you are still left with a 2100 attack point monster that does piercing. So in the end, there is no negative side. Plus, if you detach the Alucard from underneath the Downerd Magician, you still get the Alucard's effect to add a card back to your hand, such making this card almost perfect for this deck. I hope you enjoyed this little rating of Ghostricks, and so I'll end up telling you what I rate it. I personally think, because of the fact that it slows down your opponent's deck, and they have so many good cards, so many good combos, and so many good plays, I personally am going to rate this deck good, because this deck is just revolutionary with how it plays, slowing your opponent's cards down, making your plays go at the speed that you want them, and being able to use these amazing cards to be able to just keep getting cards and presents out. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want to, and tell me what I missed, tell me what I should do next, and we're done. Yeah.